extreme weather events, to exposure to chemicals, toxic metals, and so on. They are natural vulnerable. But in that context, they are particularly impacted by climate change. So as I mentioned, almost every child in the world is exposed to at least one climate hazard. And so I'll give just some numbers so you can understand the extent. 1 billion children worldwide live in 33 countries considered at high risk of climate impacts. We have 559 million children exposed to high heat wave frequency. Floodings this year, just in 2022, affected 27.7 million children in 27 countries. One fact important, 90% of the global burden of disease associated with climate change is borne by children under the age of 5. I'm talking about 90%. We had 43 million weather-related child displacements globally over the past 6 years. This is just climate impacts started on children, but there are other unintended impacts. As we move on with our mitigation and adaptation efforts and talking about business, children are also at risk of unintended impacts. We know and we have heard about what happens, for example, in the mining of minerals needed for batteries and so on. We have heard about child rights abuse, about child labor, but goes beyond that. We are talking about food insecurity associated, we are talking about land use related abuses, we are talking about water contamination, and so on. So essentially, children, and they are the present and our hope for survival on this planet, they're actually affected in all key elements they need to survive and thrive. We are talking about the air they breathe, we are talking about the land they need to get the food, and so on, and we are talking about the water they drink as well. So I will stop here and just to say and highlight again that children needs to be placed at the center of climate action if you really want to achieve a just transition.
Thank you, Emilio. I think those numbers are very important to put things into perspective, right? And you're totally correct. I mean, the proportion of young people in the world, especially in some countries, I think, you know, this links back to demographics, to labor migration, climate mobility, and like you say, you know, we have to be forward-looking, and when we look at, you know, projections of global growth, growth in the economy, growth in jobs, also climate impacts, this is going to be crucial for us to deal with. I'm going to turn now to our third speaker, Amita. In your experience at the AIA Group, so as the largest Pan-Asian life and health insurance company in Asia and a significant investor, what role do you play? How do you contribute to a just transition?
Yeah, thank you so much, and it's great to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. So I just wanted to introduce AIA a little bit. So AIA is the largest Pan-Asian health and life insurer, as Robert said, and we are deeply rooted in Asia, in 18 markets in Asia. And if you think about Asia, the region, you know, it's going to be amongst the fastest growing in the next few decades. And, you know, it's it contributes to more than 50% of greenhouse gas emissions. It's also on the front line of the climate crisis. And the energy demand in Asia is expected to actually be more than half of current EU global total by 2050. So given that, the transition is going to be very important, and it's given that it's 85% fossil fuel dependent, you know, responsible and just transition is critical in Asia. We have a legacy of trust in AIA with millions of policyholders. We're the largest. We also have a scale with 23,000 employees and hundreds and thousands of agents and partners, but we also have an investment book. So we are an investor, significant